Hey, Calvin here, and this is my iPad, and I love iPads so much. I really think they are like the most magical devices ever. In fact, if using an iPad was a religion, I'd probably be that religion, like an iPad-tarian. That sort of sounds like being a vegetarian, but like you're eating iPads? Anyway, iPads are really cool, and I love them so much that I wanted for the longest time to switch over to an iPad Pro first workflow. And in fact, I actually made a video about that and sort of my process, and that's linked down in the description below if you guys want to check that out. But anyway, in order to switch to that sort of a workflow and use this iPad as sort of my primary device, I had to really understand some of the capabilities of this thing, as well as iPad OS, and most importantly, what multitasking features were available to me as I constructed and designed my workflow for this thing. So in this video, I want to go over some of the multitasking features that I use on iPad specifically, and to just share that knowledge with anybody else who's looking to up their iPad Pro first workflow game, if you will. And yeah, over the last several years of just using an iPad, this is sort of what I picked up and what I found most useful when I work and just consume stuff on this device. Okay, so let's get into some of those tips right now, starting with Stage Manager. Now, Stage Manager, I don't like Stage Manager. I think it is a clustered mess on iPad, and the reason being is because I have this philosophy where the original multitasking feature set of iPad was designed in a way to be very, very focused in what you're trying to do. Now, if you have a lot of windows open and you're switching between 747 apps at a time, you're probably not being very productive, and in fact, it's probably hindering you from getting your stuff done. Now, the thing I like about the original multitasking set of iPad is that it was designed in sort of a limited way, but it was designed that way on purpose so that you could actually get stuff done. You don't need 17 different apps open to get your Word document or your project or whatever else that you're doing done. Now, Stage Manager is not that great. I really don't like it. It just brings a lot of cluster and a lot of just openness and everything to the iPad, and it sort of takes you away from the focused workflow of what multitasking on iPad was originally meant to be. Now, I'm not saying Stage Manager is inherently super bad or anything. It has a purpose, just not on the iPad. So do yourself a favor, take Stage Manager, dig into your iPad, rip it out, walk to your recycle bin, and just place it there. It's okay. We can turn that off. Stage Manager is a no-no. So let's start off by going into some of those multitasking features on the original multitasking feature set of iPad. And the very first one is Split View. So Split View is a way to have multiple apps open on your iPad window at the same time. Now, you can have two apps open side by side, so you can do different things like drag and drop stuff, or if you're maybe writing a paper and doing some research, you could have Pages or Word open on one side and you could have Safari or Chrome open on the other while you're researching the web and whatnot. It's really helpful. And of course, you can adjust the window size as you like. There are sort of pre-configured window sizes, but I think for the vast majority of workflows and the stuff that I use, I think those window sizes are fine. I don't think you need to get super precise into the window width and the window size. And there are a few different ways of entering split view. So at the top of most apps for current iPad OS versions, you can tap on the three dots at the top and go into split view, or you can slowly drag the dock up from the bottom of the screen and then drag and drop an app that way. Or, and this is kind of a secret feature, you can go into your app switcher and configure your windows by dragging and dropping them on top of other windows. And if you click that window set, you can go into split view for those two apps. Okay, so the next thing I use all the time is slide over. Now, slide over is sort of like a iPhone type container that sits on top of all your other windows, and you can dismiss it to one side of the iPad or the other and then bring it back in. And it's really cool because it sort of gives you an iPhone-like experience right on your iPad where you have a bunch of different apps open on a stack and you can switch between them. Now, the thing I like about Slide Over and what I use it primarily for is very focused tasks. And these tasks are usually sort of one-off tasks. So let's say I'm working on a project or a document or whatever. I'll have the Slide Over container open on the side, And the apps that I put in that container are specifically one-off task apps. So things like my to-do list for marking an item off my checklist, or if I'm listening to music, let's say on Spotify, I can quickly go in there and switch the music. Or if I just want to Google something really quick, I have Safari open in that container and I can just bring that in, type something, research it, and then dismiss it away again. And I love Slide Over for that reason, because I can design those apps to be very focused, very one-off. And what that allows me to do is it keeps my focus on the main objective that's in front of me. So that project or paper that I'm writing or whatever else that I'm doing, the Slide Over apps are just apps that I quickly need to get to, change a setting, mark something off my to-do list, and then get back to my primary work. Okay, another thing I do when I'm multitasking on my iPad is obviously switching between apps. So there's a lot of different gestures and commands for swiping between windows and switching apps. One of my favorite ones is just going to the bottom of your iPad screen and just swiping left or right on the little bar, and you can quickly switch back to recent apps, and that's really, really helpful. Or you could use the four-finger gesture, which is cool, it works, but it's a little hiccupy at times. Anyway, you can use four fingers to swipe left and right and switch between apps that way. Now, if I want to go home or just see my home screen, there's a few different ways that I do that. My favorite, if I'm doing something like my iPad is on a table and I'm drawing or sketching something out, I'll just use 5 fingers. I'll use the 5-finger pinch, and that takes me home. If I'm using a keyboard, I usually tap Command H, or on the trackpad, I take 4 fingers and I swipe up on that trackpad and it takes me home. Okay, so the next thing that I use is Quick Notes. Quick Notes is really, really cool. So if your iPad screen is off and you have an Apple Pencil, you can tap on the screen with the Apple Pencil and it'll open up a Quick Note where I can just jot a thought down or an idea or maybe a sketch for something, and that gets bundled away or put in a Quick Notes folder in my Notes app. And this is really helpful because sometimes I just have an idea that I really need to jot down very quickly, and this is just a very quick and easy way to do that. Or if your iPad is already open and unlocked, you can swipe at an angle from the corner of the screen and pull up a quick note and jot down whatever you need to, and your idea is saved and stored. Now, I really like using this feature because I use Quick Notes as sort of a staging area or a dumping ground for all of my quick ideas and thoughts, things that I just need to jot down and get back to later while I'm still working on something else entirely. And I actually got this tip from Building a Second Brain by Tiago Forte, I believe is the author. It's a really great book, not sponsored, but I did read it, and it introduced me to this concept of just staging your ideas and stuff very quickly so that you could refer back to them later when you have some time. Okay, the next multitasking feature thing that I really love is that when you're using split view or even slide over or just Windows in general, you can have the same app open on many different instances. So for an example, let's say you're working on some journaling in Notes, you can actually have 2 different Notes instances open or windows side by side, or you can have one Note window open and then another one open, and you can switch between those. And that's really, really helpful because you might need multiple windows of maybe Safari or Chrome or Notes or Pages or anything else that you want to do. And it's very convenient to have. So the way that this works is that you can tap on the 3 dots for any of the apps that support this feature, and then a little shelf will appear at the bottom and you can add new windows. You can have same windows of the same apps open side by side in split view, or you can just have them open in a window in your app switcher and you can get to them by just navigating through your apps just like any other app. Okay, the next feature that I think is really cool is picture in picture. So this is a feature that if you have some sort of media playing, specifically videos from either YouTube or just a media player in general, you can have that video overlaid on top of everything else that you're doing. So this is really helpful for things like lectures. So very recently I've been starting to study Japanese, and I would want to watch a video but also take notes in Notability. So what I did was I used picture-in-picture to have the video playing on the foreground in a corner of my iPad, and of course you can move that window around or you can dismiss it but then still listen to the audio. And this is so helpful, especially for students when you are just watching a video but you still need to take notes or work on an assignment. Now, if this is not enabled for your iPad, you do need to go to settings and then general and then picture in picture and turn that on. I'm not sure if it's available for super old iPads, but I think for a lot of the newer ones, it is available by default, and it's just such a good feature to have. Okay, finally, if you are a macOS user, you might already know this last feature, and that is use Spotlight. Spotlight is really good on the iPad. You can use it for all sorts of things, from finding little note snippets or opening up a document or opening up an app or even just switching between apps. It's just a really nice feature to have on iPad, and it just makes navigating all your apps and your documents and your files and everything else in between super easy. Now, just like on a Mac, you could press Command Spacebar if you have a keyboard installed with your iPad, and you can open up Spotlight, you can search for things, and it's just very helpful. Now, another cool thing I like about Spotlight is that you can open specific documents within apps. So if you're looking for a particular note that you wrote within the Notes app, you can just search for that note's title and it'll open up that note, or just any other app. So if you're working on a Keynote presentation, you don't have to use Spotlight just to open Keynote, but you can use Spotlight to open a particular presentation in Keynote, and I think that is just super helpful. Okay, so that's all the multitasking tips that I have for you guys in this video. I hope you enjoyed that. I really like using my iPad. It's been my primary device for about 6 months now. It's gone really well, and it's just really good. The multitasking feature on iPad is, I think, designed very well, and again, this is because I don't use Stage Manager. It's just a clustered mess, and I don't want to get back into that topic. But the original implementation for multitasking on iPad, I think, was designed very well. And the thing that I love about it, again, is that it was designed with a very focused workflow in mind so that you can actually be productive and get things done. Okay, thank you guys for watching this video. Thank you for your support, and I will catch you guys in the next one.